Hello and welcome to the Six Hockey Player Interview Series, where we get the chance to sit down with some recent draftees from the 2021 OHL Priority Selection. Zach, we saw a lot of interesting names go to a lot of new places. This is going to be a fun couple of years for these guys.
Indeed, we have Ethan Wallace with us here today. He's an 191st overall selection to the Mississauga Steelheads. And Ethan, I'm sure things have been pretty crazy the past couple of days. Today, you're doing a lot more interviews than you're used to. How are you? How are you feeling, and how are you coping with all of that?
Yeah, well, at the start, it was a lot. I hadn't really done any interviews. So once we started rolling into the OHL interviews with some teams, the first one was obviously very nervous, but as I went through them, they got better and better. And now I'm excited more than ever to talk about hockey.
Awesome, man. And you're hopefully going to be doing it for the rest of your life. But we start with the basics. Take us through that draft process, getting selected to Mississauga, and on draft day, talk about who were you with and where did that first congratulatory phone call come from?
Okay, so it all started almost a month before the draft. I received a couple emails from a couple teams, and then we had set up some interviews. So the first one was actually with Mississauga, and it was a great conversation. We had a great talk about my goals and what they're looking for. And then I did some others, and then heard back from them like a couple days before, just seeing how I'm doing, and then didn't hear much more than that until draft day, where the night before I was obviously very nervous, so I didn't get the greatest sleep. I slept in. And then right as I got up, I heard a phone call, picked it up, and it was the GM congratulating me on being selected, which was just an amazing alarm clock.
Yeah, that sounds super stressful. But how did your family and friends? How did they react once they found out you were going to be a Steelhead?
So I was on the phone, and then I guess the website updated a couple seconds after, so I can hear my mom and my sister cheering from the other room. So of course, once I get off the phone, I run into there, and I know the news, they know it, so we're all celebrating, and then pulled my dad into the room too, and we all, had celebrated, cheered for a bit, and then I actually got a couple more phone calls back from some other people that I'd talked to earlier, and then of course my other family members and some of my old coaches.
And the Mississauga Steelheads, a great organization to go to. They, I think, had a pretty strong draft. They took a lot of different players. Have you met any of those guys up to this point? Have you played with them before, or who are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, I'm sure I've played with them all down the line. I've played in lots of tournaments, but I actually don't know any of the other draft picks personally, but I'm very excited to meet them all.
And in terms of going to Mississauga, if I was a Steelhead fan, I didn't really know much about you. What would you tell the fans who, again, don't know too much about you?
Yeah, well, I like to be a leader and also a good two-way defenseman. I like to carry the puck up the ice, but I also like to have a strong defensive presence back in my own end, and I think that's something to look forward to in my game.
Yeah, and it's important as a defenseman to be able to develop both ways, offensively and defensively. Is there one attribute that you think you possess that helps you succeed in both? Is it vision of the ice, hockey IQ?
Yeah, I'd have to say it's my hockey IQ. I go over video weekly, even in the off season, and it gives me a good idea of where things are without even having to take a look. And I think that's one of my biggest strengths.
Yeah, and you got some hockey IQ, but you're also a pretty good leader. You were the assistant captain for the Upper Canada Cyclones. So how are you going to take that leadership and apply it to a brand new team?
Yeah, well, I think it all starts, it's, not really about the letter on the jersey, but it's more about, how you treat your teammates and how you act. Like, I always expect everyone to be, positive on the bench and make sure that everyone's engaged. So if I see someone a little too down on themselves or a little too down on the other, I'm definitely going to jump in there and just, try and lighten the mood.
Yeah, and we had seen some highlights there from Carleton Place U18, and I think that's really interesting because it's not often we see players in the U15, U16 age group have that opportunity to play up with some of the older kids. In the OHL, it's no different. You've got guys in front of you that are a couple of years older, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. What does that Carleton Place experience, mean to you for your development?
Well, it was actually a great experience because even the year before that, I got the opportunity to play a couple games with them called up, including a playoff game, which was, very nerve-wracking at the start, but got me more prepared than ever to play with older guys. And I think that's been huge because walking into this season, you know, no nerves playing with the older, bigger guys, and I had a good idea of, what was going to go on.
Yeah, and you just being a complete all around defenseman, who have you modeled your game after? Let's say someone in the NHL.
Well, there's lots of players like I don't model after, one individual player, but there's lots of players like Roman Yossi. If you see him collecting a puck, picks it up quick and then fast up the ice, but also strong defensive defensemen like Victor Hedman, who also, had some good goals in the playoffs recently, but has this super strong defensive, core. And then Drew Doughty as well, great two-way defenseman up and back the ice.
Yeah, a lot of good examples to model your game after. But I mean, those fascinations with those players and those styles don't start now. They probably started back in minor hockey, where you've probably cultivated some really good experiences. Is there something that you're going to take from your minor hockey days as, a really cherished memory as you move forward in your career?
Well, it's not just one memory, it's, all the people and all the personalities that you meet along the way. And, even in the hardships of losing or the good times of winning, I mean, there's tons to learn from everything. I think that's, what's actually got me to this point.
Yeah, and I mean, kid, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. I can promise you that because you were one of the biggest defensemen taken in the OHL Priority Selection. We've got some familiar names here. Bronson Ride at 6'5.5", but you're right up there with Landry Tate. Tiebreaker between all those players at 6'4" is the weight. What has it been like for you being a bigger defenseman for I guess pretty much your a majority of your career? Was that an adjustment as a guy who maybe needed to get the legs moving a little bit faster to catch up with some of those speedy forwards while you were backtracking?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone expects the big guy to be slower. So I, set my goals to make that the exact opposite. So I definitely spent a lot of time just working on my skating, my edge work, and my speed because you don't want to be the slow big guy, you want to be the all around player. So that's something that I definitely work on a lot.
It's important on the ice, but off the ice as well. I mean, you can't spend all of your time thinking about hockey. There has to be some kind of downtime. Ethan, how do you spend those days when you're not focused on hockey?
Well, fortunately, I love hockey, so a lot of time is spent, watching other hockey games or watching my own. But when I'm not, I like to go hang out with my friends, like to do other sports. I don't play any like, at the same level as hockey, but I like to go play them. I'm competitive, so just doing anything where there's a winner and a loser, then I'm having fun.
You say you watch some of your own footage from time and time again. When you watch that, what do you feel like you have to improve upon to make that next step to the next level?
Well, I think, working on I think everything because players are just bigger, faster, stronger, and it's not just the speed that you're moving, but the speed that you're making decisions. So I think working on everything all around and just getting as much time on the ice and as much time watching games as possible is going to really make a huge difference.
Yeah, so hopefully your next step takes you into Mississauga training camp, and if you make the team, it's a bit of a trip from where you're at right now. But with the six hockey, you did get the opportunity to play in the Triple Crown tournament out in Chicago. I mean, what was that experience like for you, getting to travel on the road and play competitive games in an unfamiliar scenario?
Well, yeah, it was great just seeing, especially because I knew there was lots of, big names in the tournament. So not only getting to play with some great hockey players, but also getting to see some other players I'd never seen before was a great experience. And I mean, things like that is what gets you a little bit farther and a little bit farther. And it was great opportunity.
I mean, you do have to adjust. It'll be a new situation, a new set of teammates. But Ethan, you mentioned your leadership is one of the qualities you pride yourself on. But what's the dynamic like in the locker room? Are you the guy that gets the aux cord that plays the tunes? Do you give the speeches to get everybody going before the game?
Well, I'm definitely not the music guy. I don't have the greatest choice of music. I hear it all the time, so I gave up on that. But yeah, I like to give the big speech before the game. I like to get the boys fired up, make sure everyone's ready, and that's definitely me in the room. Is the big speech before, but not on the aux. That's for sure.
Ethan, what's it been like? I mean, you play in Carleton Place. There's not a ton of people out there, and I mean, OHL.com has you listed from a little township just outside of downtown Ottawa. Is there a rallying around you that you have this new opportunity to really make an impact at the next level? What's that been like?
Yeah, well, I'm excited definitely, and I've seen there's actually another player, can't remember his name, but from my area, and I'd always see him on the gas stations, just a kid from Manotick is what it would say. So, more than excited to be, the next one, the next big player from a small little town.
Yeah, Ethan. I mean, it's clear that you're not only a competitor in the game, but a fan of the game as well. You got a favorite hockey team?
Well, for the longest time, my favorite team was the Sens, but they've kind of fallen off the charts, and I haven't picked up a new favorite team.
I'd lobby you on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sure my co-host would lobby you on the Montreal Canadiens. It's a little bit divisive, but regardless,
Yeah.
I mean, their stories are their own, and your story is yours. Ethan, we really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us a little bit today to help the people understand a little bit more about you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me here. I mean, it's great. I love to talk about hockey, so anytime.
It was a pleasure, man, for sure. For the Six Hockey, my name is Liam Crothers. This has been Zach Finch, an interview with recent Mississauga Steelheads draft selection Ethan Wallace. And until next time, we'll see you then.